Imagine buying, a really beautiful historic house.
Oh, like a classic Victorian or something.
Yeah, exactly. And you spend your entire life savings on it
Right.
because you just love the foundation, the history, the bones of the place.
Or the character of it, yeah.
Right. Then one day you go out of town for the weekend, and while you're gone, a construction crew just shows up.
Oh, no.
And they don't just repaint the walls. They demolish the entire thing down to the dirt.
Wow.
Yeah, they bring in bulldozers, they pour new concrete, and they build completely different structure.
Just totally gone.
Totally gone. Let's say it's now, I don't know, a brutalist, windowless concrete cube.
Sounds terrible.
Right. And you come home in absolute shock, and the foreman just hands you the keys with a smile and says, "Hey, we just updated your living room."
Yeah, you would think they were completely insane.
You'd call the police.
Excellent.
Because you know instinctively that a total demolition and replacement is not, in any universe, an update.
No, I mean, it is an entirely different category of reality. It's just an erasure.
Exactly. But here's the crazy part, and this is why we're doing this deep dive today for you guys listening.
Yeah.
Linguistically, historically, even conceptually, we let scholars, politicians, and technologists pull this exact scam on us every single day.
We really do. We don't even notice it.
We use the word change to describe almost everything. It is this massive, overflowing, catch-all bucket of a word.
Right.
Like you download a software patch on your phone, you changed it.
You get a flat tire and patch it up, you change the tire.
Exactly. Or you completely abandon your career in accounting to become a deep-sea welder. You changed careers.
Right.
We lump fixing a flaw, adding a feature, and completely destroying an identity into one tiny, incredibly lazy vocabulary word.
And that lazy vocabulary is, well, it's not just a semantic annoyance,
What do you mean?
It is a profound conceptual blind spot. Because when you blur the lines between fixing something, evolving something, and utterly obliterating something, you lose the ability to track reality.
You get the concrete cube.
Exactly. You allow people to hand you a pile of rubble and convince you it's a renovation.
Which brings us perfectly to the mission of today's deep dive. We are unpacking a truly groundbreaking academic paper today.
Yes, we are.
It's titled The Final Word on Transformation, and it is written by Dr. Khaled Waleed.
A fascinating piece of work.
It really is. In it, Dr. Waleed introduces what he calls his kernel theory.
Or in Arabic, it's called Nazariyat al-Izdirat al-Qur'aniyya.
Right. And let me tell you, as someone who reads, a lot of theory for this show, this framework completely shattered how I look at systems, stability, and movement.
It is a total paradigm shift, I agree.
It really is.
Because Dr. Waleed isn't just pointing out a philosophical problem here. He is offering a rigorous, an almost mathematical standard to solve it.
Which is so rare.
It is. He argues that traditional interpretations across linguistics, history, and theology have just fatally mixed up four completely different types of movement.
Lumping them all as change.
Exactly. And by giving us a structural litmus test, Dr. Waleed's theory allows us to prove definitively whether an original concept has simply evolved, if it's been completely replaced, or most dangerously, if it has been corrupted.
So whether you are a linguistics nerd, a tech enthusiast, or just someone who loves a massive aha moment that flips your perspective, Dr. Waleed's framework is going to give you a brand new lens to view the world.
You're going to start auditing everything you read.
Oh, absolutely. So let's start with the core problem Dr. Waleed identifies in the research.
Yeah.
Why do we keep falling for the house demolition scam in the first place?
Well, according to Dr. Waleed, we fall for it because traditional thought often lacks a fixed origin against which to measure movement.
A fixed origin.
Right. If you're going to claim that something has changed or evolved or updated, you must be able to point to the core entity that is actually doing the moving.
The thing being updated.
Exactly. In Dr. Waleed's framework, that fixed origin is called the kernel or the structural root.
The kernel, like the absolute bedrock of a concept.
Precisely. If we look at a linguistic system, which is where Dr. Waleed primarily anchors this theory, his argument is that the root of a word is what preserves its identity.
Okay.
All the prefixes, the suffixes, the grammatical patterns, the vowels, those are just the potential for diversity.
They are the paint colors and the window fixtures of our house analogy.
Yes, but Dr. Waleed insists the kernel must remain mathematically intact. If the root disappears, the identity is dead.
Okay, I'm with you on the logic, but I have to push back a bit on this rigid mathematical baseline because Language is notoriously messy.
Oh, for sure.
We have slang, dialects, mispronunciations, loan words. Language is supposed to be fluid.
Right. That's the common assumption, yeah.
Meanings shift over centuries. So if Dr. Waleed locks down this kernel concept so tightly, aren't we kind of ignoring how human beings actually communicate in the real world? Doesn't his theory fight against natural evolution?
That is the natural objection, and it's a good one. But Dr. Waleed addresses this head-on in the paper.
Okay, what's his defense?
He argues that without a strict mathematical standard of structural survival, language doesn't become fluid, it becomes chaotic.
Oh, interesting.
Right. Dr. Waleed says that if the kernel isn't preserved, original meanings can be hijacked without anyone noticing.
So it's essentially an accountability mechanism.
Exactly. Dr. Waleed isn't about preventing evolution. Evolution is necessary. But his kernel theory is about demanding accountability for the evolution.
Make sure it's actually evolution.
Yes. If you, as a historian or a linguist, claim that concept B evolved from concept A, Dr. Waleed's theory says, show me the structural math, show me the surviving kernel.
And if you can't?
If you can't point to the surviving root structure, then Dr. Waleed proves it isn't evolution. It's a completely different phenomenon that you are mislabeling to borrow the authority of the original.
Wow. Okay, I see. It's about protecting the origin from being quietly erased under the guise of, progress.
Right.
And this leads to a crucial philosophical point Dr. Waleed makes that I highlighted 3 times in my notes.
Which one?
He writes that stability does not mean stagnation. I think we so often confuse those two things today.
We really do.
We think if something is stable or fixed, it's dead. It's a fossil.
That is a very modern bias, We worship disruption.
We do. Move fast and break things.
Exactly. But Dr. Waleed's theory proves the exact opposite. He shows that without a fixed origin, there can be no development.
Because there's nothing to develop from.
Right. There can be no repair. If the foundation is constantly shifting, you can't build a second story.
You can't even identify when a wall is crooked because you have no baseline for straight.
Yes. For Dr. Waleed, the constant, the kernel, is the absolute necessary reference point for any meaningful movement.
Okay, so if we accept Dr. Waleed's premise that a fixed kernel must exist for identity to survive, how do things actually move?
Well, they have to move somehow.
Right, because we know things don't just sit still. Languages grow, systems update. And this is where Dr. Waleed's paper moves from abstract philosophy to what I'd call a highly practical toolkit.
A diagnostic tool, almost.
Yeah. He breaks down all movement into 4 distinct, scientifically precise categories.
Let's walk through them, because this categorization by Dr. Waleed is the engine of the entire theory.
Okay, what's movement number 1?
The first movement Dr. Waleed identifies is transformation. The Arabic term he uses here is ta'wil.
Transformation or update. So how does Dr. Waleed define this mathematically?
Dr. Waleed's definition of transformation is developing a sound, healthy origin while keeping its identity perfectly intact.
Okay.
His formula is simple. Kernel plus development. You have a healthy root, and you are adding capacity or potential to it.
If we look at evolutionary biology, this is classic adaptation, right?
Yeah, perfect example.
Think of a moth species living in an industrial city. Over a few generations, its wings change from white to dark gray to camouflage against the soot-covered trees.
Right, it developed.
It transformed. But its DNA, its internal organs, its fundamental skeleton, the kernel, remains entirely intact. It is still, undeniably, the exact same species of moth.
That is a brilliant analogy for Dr. Waleed's concept. The biological core is unbroken, and he uses linguistic examples to prove the same phenomenon.
Okay, like what?
Let's take Arabic, which Dr. Waleed notes is uniquely suited for this because Semitic languages are built entirely on triconsonantal roots.
Triconsonant, meaning 3 consonants.
Right. The root is the skeleton and the vowels are the flesh.
Which is so different from English, where we just, mash borrowed words together.
Exactly. In Arabic, the root is mathematically visible. So Dr. Waleed looks at the root HMD, which centers around the concept of praise.
Okay, HMD.
According to Dr. Waleed's framework, this root undergoes transformation ta'wil to become names like Ahmad, Muhammad, Mahmud, or Hamid.
Oh, wow. Here's where it gets really interesting for me. Dr. Waleed points out that changing the form doesn't destroy the origin.
Not at all.
Because if you strip away the extra vowels or the prefixes, the core architecture, the H, the M, the D, in that exact order, is staring right at you in every single variation.
Precisely. The root is visibly preserved. Yep. Dr. Waleed's structural math holds up perfectly.
That is so cool. Okay, so that's transformation. What is the second category?
Which brings us to the second category of movement, and this is where our daily vocabulary fails us. Movement number 2 in Dr. Waleed's theory is change.
Change.
The Arabic term is taghyir.
Now wait, my immediate reaction is, aren't transformation and change synonyms? I mean, I use them interchangeably all the time.
Most of us do, which is why Dr. Waleed says our conceptual tracking is so slumpy. In Dr. Waleed's kernel theory, they are absolutely not synonyms. The distinction is vital. Change, or taghyir, only happens because there is a flaw that needs fixing.
A flaw?
Yes, it is specifically a repair mechanism.
Okay, so transformation is adding features to something healthy, but change is specifically intervening because something is broken or flawed.
Exactly. Dr. Waleed's formula for this is repaired kernel equals the kernel minus the flaw.
Minus the flaw.
Right. He emphasizes a hard, immutable rule here. The presence of a flaw is the only Tark thing that opens the door to this specific type of movement.
Okay, to stick with the biology metaphors, if transformation is the moth adapting its wing color, then change is a bird with a broken wing that heals.
Yes, perfect.
You aren't creating a new species. You aren't even adding a new feature. You're just removing a temporary defect, the break, so the original kernel can function properly again.
Exactly. Or, to use one of Dr. Waleed's tech examples, you buy a brand new phone, you take it out of the box, and the internal speaker crackles.
It's defective.
Right. You take it back to the store and ask them to change it, meaning fix it. You aren't rejecting the phone's identity.
You don't want them to hand you a toaster oven.
Or a different brand. You just want the temporary flaw removed so the true identity of the phone can express itself.
That makes perfect sense. The identity is reaffirmed by the repair. But this begs the obvious question for Dr. Waleed.
Go ahead.
What if my phone works perfectly, but a year later, the company releases a newer, faster model with a totally different processor, and I want that instead?
Oh, right.
I walk in, hand them my old phone, and walk out with the brand new model. There was no flaw to fix, and this isn't just a software patch on my old device, it's a physical swap.
And that logical progression leads us directly into Dr. Waleed's third category.
Okay, what is it?
When you completely swap the core, Dr. Waleed says you have entered the realm of replacement. The Arabic term is ibdal.
Replacement. So this is the house demolition we talked about at the beginning?
Yes. In Dr. Waleed's mathematical formula, kernel, K, becomes kernel prime, K prime.
It's a totally different kernel.
Exactly. It is moving from one original foundation to a completely different one. To go back to biology, this isn't a moth changing color, and it isn't a bird healing a wing.
This is like a dinosaur going extinct, and millions of years later, a completely different mammalian predator occupies that geographic territory.
Yes, it's an explicit swap of identity. The danger, as Dr. Waleed points out, is that human beings are incredibly sloppy with this category.
How so?
We will trade in our perfectly fine sedan for a massive SUV and call it an update.
Right.
We will completely overhaul an entire political system and call it a change. Structurally, Dr. Waleed shows us it is a replacement, an ibdal. We are throwing away the old kernel entirely.
Which feels like it should be the worst case scenario, right? Complete replacement.
You'd think so.
But Dr. Waleed actually identifies a fourth category that is significantly more insidious.
Oh, much worse.
Because with replacement, at least it's usually obvious. You know you don't have a sedan anymore. You know you have an SUV. The old thing is visibly gone. Yeah. But this fourth category.
This is the dark arts of movement, according to Dr. Waleed.
Let's get into it. Category 4.
Category 4 is distortion. The Arabic term is tarif. And what makes distortion so dangerous is that it actively mimics the other movements to deceive the observer.
Like a parasite.
Exactly like a parasite.
It reminds me of the cordyceps fungus.
Oh, explain that for the listener, because that's a great visual.
It's terrifying, honestly. Cordyceps is a parasitic fungus that infects insects, like ants.
Okay.
The spore gets inside the ant, consumes its internal organs, hijacks its nervous system, and literally forces the ant to climb up a plant and clamp down on a leaf.
Wow.
Then the fungus bursts out of the ant's head to spread more spores. Now, if you look at it from a distance, you might say, oh, look at that ant climbing a leaf.
Right, it looks like an ant.
The exoskeleton, the raw material of the ant, is still there. But the internal system is completely destroyed and replaced by a foreign entity, driving it to a completely different purpose.
That is a horrifying yet structurally perfect analogy for Dr. Waleed's concept of tarif.
So it's about deception.
Yes. Dr. Waleed explains that distortion tries to keep a fake visual link to the origin, the exoskeleton of the ant, while entirely severing its internal relationships to force a brand new meaning.
He has a really good linguistic example in the paper for this.
He does, and it proves the point mathematically. Dr. Waleed looks at the Arabic root letters KTB.
KTB. Yeah.
In the Semitic root system, this exact sequence is intimately, irrevocably bound to the concept of writing, books, recording, and documentation.
Okay, so KTB means writing.
Yes. Now, Dr. Waleed asks, what happens if a historian or a linguist comes along and takes those exact same elements, a K, a T, and a B, but scrambles their internal relationship?
So they mix them up.
Right. What if they force the order to become BTK?
Well, a lazy observer might say, hey, it's the same letters. It's just a dialect shift. It's an update. It's still the house. We just move the bricks around.
Exactly. They see the exoskeleton of the ant. But Dr. Waleed proves that the structural system is dead.
The math fails.
Yes. The mathematical relationship between the elements has been severed. In Arabic, BTK means something completely different. It relates to cutting, severing, or plucking out.
Totally unrelated to writing.
Right. The original meaning of writing is obliterated, even though the raw materials were kept on the table.
So distortion, Tarif, is taking the bricks from our historic house, throwing them into a chaotic pile in the yard, and a salesman saying, look, it's the exact same house. Enjoy your living room.
Perfect analogy.
But no, it's not. The architecture, the specific load-bearing relationship between those bricks is what made it a foundation in the first place.
And this is the profound value of Dr. Waleed's entire framework.
Because it protects us from the salesman.
Exactly. Dr. Waleed is saying if you do not have a strict mathematical definition of the kernel, and if you don't rigidly define transformation, change, replacement, and distortion, someone will eventually hand you that pile of bricks and convince you it's a foundation.
Dr. Waleed has basically created a foolproof, universal way to audit any system to see if you're being lied to.
He really has.
Okay, my mind is already blown just applying Dr. Waleed's ideas to linguistics and history, but we have to zoom out now because the scale of this paper gets truly cosmic.
It does. It gets huge.
Dr. Waleed doesn't just stop at human language. He takes his exact kernel theory and maps it onto the architecture of the universe itself and onto divine texts.
This is where Dr. Waleed's framework transitions from a linguistic tool to a grand unified theory of systems.
How does he apply it to, divine stuff?
Dr. Waleed categorizes divine constancy into two distinct types. First, he examines what we might call divine outputs, God's words, specific sayings, and physical creations.
Okay, creations.
According to Dr. Waleed's theory, these outputs have a fixed origin, a kernel, that absolutely cannot be replaced, no ibdal by human beings.
Right, so we can't swap out the root of a divine text, and we can't swap out the biological foundation of a tree.
Exactly. However, Dr. Waleed notes that these creations can undergo transformation tawil by God's will.
So this goes back to our biology metaphors from earlier. Like an acorn transforming into a massive 80-foot oak tree. The kernel, the genetic code, is perfectly preserved. It is just developing, expanding, expressing its capacity.
Yes, or, linguistically, Dr. Waleed points to the HMD root, transforming into a variety of different descriptive names, like we talked about.
The origin is locked, but the potential expression is vast and dynamic.
Precisely. For Dr. Waleed, the kernel is fixed, but it has permission to move, to develop. But then he analyzes a second overarching category, divine laws.
Divine laws.
The Arabic term Dr. Waleed uses here is sunan, and his analysis of this category is just staggering.
Let's unpack the word sunan for a second for the listener, because it's not just rules like a speed limit.
No.
Etymologically, it relates to a path, a habitual practice, the unbreakable weave of how reality operates, like physics, causality, the rise and fall of civilizations based on their actions.
Exactly. Dr. Waleed sees sunan as the operating system of reality, and he references a specific profound verse from the Quran chapter Fatir, verse 43.
What does the verse say?
Dr. Waleed highlights that this verse explicitly, unequivocally states that there is no replacement, tabdil, and absolutely no transformation, tawil, in God's laws in this sunan.
Wait, zero movement allowed. Not even the healthy adaptation of an acorn into a tree.
Zero movement. And Dr. Waleed asks the critical question here, why? Why are creations allowed to transform and grow while the divine laws governing them are granted zero movement?
And his logic for this is breathtaking.
It really is. Explain his reasoning.
Dr. Waleed argues that the laws are the framework governing everything else. They are the ultimate baseline.
Right.
If the laws of physics could transform if gravity decided to update itself to a new version tomorrow, or if the laws of cause and effect adapted, the entire universe's standard of measurement would collapse.
Everything would fall apart.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? If we pull this back to the tech analogy, Dr. Waleed is essentially saying that the universe has a base operating system, the Sunan, that never, ever updates.
It is permanently, eternally fixed.
And it is precisely because that framework is completely immovable that the apps inside it, like us, biology, nature, language, can update safely. It's a brilliant framework.
It is the ultimate expression of Dr. Waleed's rule we discussed earlier. Stability does not mean stagnation. Stability enables movement.
Wow.
You need absolute, terrifying rigidity at the very bottom of reality so you can have safe, flourishing flexibility at the top.
That is it's a beautiful way to view the architecture of reality. True stability is the engine of safe movement.
It is.
But as much as I love the cosmic philosophy, I know Dr. Waleed doesn't stay in the clouds. He weaponizes this theory.
He absolutely does.
He turns this philosophy into a literal algorithm, a structural litmus test, and starts auditing history.
Yes. He moves from theory to application. Dr. Waleed sets up a rigorous algorithm to test historical names and claims.
What's he looking for?
He wants to see if the supposed evolution of certain ancient names actually survives his internal structural tests. If a historian claims name A evolved into name B, Dr. Waleed says, let's run the math. Let's look for the kernel.
Okay, let's run a test case with him. What is the baseline Dr. Waleed uses to prove his algorithm works?
He looks at the linguistic journey of the name Abraham.
Abraham, okay.
It starts with the proposed ancient Semitic root, BHM. Then Dr. Waleed tracks the historical and phonetic shifts to a stage like Abram, and finally to the Arabic Ibrahim.
So he runs this sequence through his kernel theory algorithm.
Right. And the primary question Dr. Waleed asks is, does the foundational structure survive the journey?
Okay, let's look at the actual letters, the structural math Dr. Waleed uses. We start with BHM.
Right.
Then we go to Abram. The B, the H, and the M are still perfectly intact in that exact order.
Yep, there.
Then we shift to Ibrahim. Again, if you strip away the vowels, the B, the H, and the M are still sitting right there.
Exactly. Dr. Waleed mathematically demonstrates that adding a vowel at the beginning, or changing the phonetic shape by adding an I sound, does not cancel the structural core.
The foundation of the house is undisturbed.
Therefore, according to Dr. Waleed's framework, this is categorized as a perfectly valid transformation and update.
It is a healthy taa wheel.
Yes. Dr. Waleed shows it is definitely not a replacement. The identity is unbroken across centuries and dialects.
Okay, that makes total sense. It proves Dr. Waleed's tool works. And just to be doubly sure, he runs a second test case, which we touched on earlier, with the root HMD.
Right, moving from Hamad to Ahmad to Muhammad.
And again, Dr. Waleed shows the structural link remains completely visible. It passes the test. The algorithm is fair, mathematically consistent, and objective.
Which is the perfect setup. Dr. Waleed establishes the reliability of the tool so that no one can accuse him of bias in the next section.
Because now we reach the absolute climax of Dr. Waleed's paper.
The big reveal.
Yeah, he takes this exact proven algorithm and he points it at one of the most widely accepted historical assumptions in human history.
He goes after the massive, universally accepted assumption that the prophet Yaqub, known in English as Jacob and Israel, are the exact same person.
Two names, one guy.
This is where Dr. Waleed's research becomes incredibly disruptive.
I mean, for centuries, across multiple major world religions and historical traditions, it has just been accepted as absolute fact, right?
Completely undisputed fact. Yaqub is Israel. Israel is Yaqub.
And Dr. Waleed takes this monolith of an assumption and says, okay, let's run the math.
Let's do it. Let's run Dr. Waleed's algorithm step by step on Yaqub and Israel, just like we did with Abraham.
I want to see how this breaks down. Step one. Dr. Waleed says we have to identify the kernel of the original name.
Right. So Dr. Waleed identifies the Arabic root of the name Yaqub.
And what is it?
The root is AQB. This root carries the meaning of following, coming after, or being at the heel. That is the structural foundation. The kernel equals AQB.
Okay, we have our baseline. Step two, the transformation test.
Right.
This is where Dr. Waleed asks, is the word Israel just a healthy update or evolution of Yaqub, like a moth adapting to a new environment?
And Dr. Waleed walks through the logic effortlessly. If we take the kernel AQB and add development to it, vowels, prefixes, phonetic shifts over time, do we ever mathematically arrive at the word Israel?
Well, looking at it just as a layman, if I try to stretch those sounds, the A, the Q, the B, into the word Israel, I hit a brick wall.
There's nothing.
The DNA is just gone.
Exactly. Dr. Waleed points out the profound, undeniable fact. The root letters A, Q, and B completely disappear in the word Israel. There's zero trace of them.
Wow.
The structural link is utterly dead. Therefore, Dr. Waleed concludes it mathematically fails the transformation test. It is not an evolution.
The house was demolished. Okay, so it's not an update. Step 3, the change or repair test.
Right.
Dr. Waleed asks, is the name Israel a fix for a flaw inside the name Yaakov?
And Dr. Waleed's answer is clearly no. The name Yaqub isn't a broken word needing a grammatical patch.
Right.
Israel isn't a repair mechanism. It is a completely distinct identity. So it fails Dr. Waleed's change test too.
Which leaves us with step 4, the replacement test.
Here, Dr. Waleed delivers the verdict based on his framework. He concludes that moving from the root AQB to the root of Israel, which linguistically stems from SRY or ASR, relating to travel or striving, is a total, uncompromising swap of identity.
It is an exchange of foundation.
It is an ibdal, a replacement, not a derivation. You have thrown away one kernel and adopted an entirely different one, according to Dr. Waleed.
Okay, but this leads to the final fatal step of Dr. Waleed's algorithm, step 5, the distortion test.
Yeah.
Because if it's a replacement, fine, but that's not how history treats it. History says they are the same guy.
Exactly. And Dr. Waleed warns that this is the trap. Claiming that a new origin Israel is the exact same identity as the old origin Yaqub, while providing absolutely zero surviving structural link between them, is textbook distortion. Yes. Dr. Waleed shows you are taking the cordyceps fungus, putting it in the ant, and demanding everyone call it an ant.
You are taking 2 separate linguistic foundations and forcing the world to accept they are the same house.
Right.
So, Dr. Waleed's conclusion. It's honestly shocking when you lay out the logic so coldly.
It is.
According to Dr. Waleed's kernel theory, because the original root completely vanishes, linguistically and structurally, Yaqub and Israel simply cannot be the same entity.
The linguistic math does not allow it.
It is a hard stop. Dr. Waleed proves that calling Yaqub Israel is not an update. It is an erasure of identity. Okay, I have to stop here because my head is kind of spinning. Let's look at the real-world implications of this.
Sure.
If Dr. Waleed's linguistic math is this clear, if it proves they aren't the same, why does literally everyone think they are?
That's the big question.
I mean, humans love to syncretize. They love to merge myths and historical figures to tidy up messy narratives. But how did this specific merger become undisputed global fact?
That is the crucial question, and it tees up the final masterful section of Dr. Waleed's paper.
I knew this was coming.
He completely anticipated this pushback. Dr. Waleed knows he is fighting millennia of tradition here. He knows people will say, but the historical stories say they are the same.
Right.
So Dr. Waleed answers this by stepping outside of pure linguistics and auditing the source material itself using internal Quranic methodology.
He audits the historical evidence. I love this. So how does Dr. Waleed approach the texts?
Dr. Waleed starts with a breathtakingly simple observation of the primary text, the Quran.
Okay.
He points out that the Quran mentions Yaqub numerous times in various contexts, and it mentions Israel numerous times, but Dr. Waleed notes the text never once says Yaqub equals Israel.
Wait, none in the entire text?
None. There's no explicit verse making that merger. They are treated as distinct names.
Okay, wow.
So Dr. Waleed asks the logical follow-up. Where did the idea come from? If it's not explicitly in the primary text, where did this global assumption originate?
And what does he find?
Dr. Waleed traces it exclusively to external historical narratives. Specifically, he points to a story from ancient Israelite traditions about Israel forbidding camel meat for himself due to a physical condition like sciatica.
Sciatica, okay.
That external story, grafted onto the text centuries later, Dr. Waleed argues is the sole glue holding this massive assumption together.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure, go for it.
Scholars and historians use external historical stories to interpret ancient religious texts all the time. It's standard practice to look at the cultural context. Why is Dr. Waleed so fundamentally opposed to using this specific story to link Yaqub and Israel?
Because of a profound methodological error that Dr. Waleed exposes, and this requires a deep dive into an Arabic concept Dr. Waleed highlights, al-Muhaymin, the dominant book.
Let's unpack the etymology of al-Muhaymin, because it's a heavy word.
It is. Dr. Waleed explains it relates to a bird spreading its wings over its chicks to protect them, to oversee them.
A protector?
Yes. It means the ultimate guardian, the overarching standard, the judge that dictates what is true and what is false beneath it.
Okay.
Dr. Waleed cites several Quranic verses on Nal 89, Fusilat 3, and Al-Ma'idah 48. These verses explicitly state that the text is detailed, that it explains itself, and most importantly, that it is al-muhaimin over previous scriptures and external narratives.
Meaning the primary text is the Supreme Court. It has final jurisdiction.
Exactly. And here is the devastating paradox Dr. Waleed points out.
Oh.
If you use an external, unverified historical narrative, like the camel meat story, to forcefully merge two distinct names in the primary text, names that have no linguistic link and no explicit textual link, you are actively making the external narrative the judge over the Quran.
Oh, wow. I see it. You are completely inverting the hierarchy of information.
Precisely. Dr. Waleed argues you are turning the primary text into the subject and the outside story into the master. You are essentially saying that the Supreme Court is incomplete, confusing, or lacking context without this random piece of external folklore.
It's like, imagine you are sitting in the Supreme Court of the United States debating a constitutional issue.
Right.
And a lawyer stands up and says, well, to understand this amendment, we have to overwrite it with this highly upvoted comment I found on Reddit.
Exactly.
You can't use the rules of a secondary unverified system to overrule the native rulebook while you're standing in its jurisdiction.
Dr. Waleed is basically saying, you can't use the rules of chess to overrule the rule book of basketball while you're standing on a basketball court.
The native rulebook is supreme. It is al-muhaimin.
That is a phenomenal analogy, and it perfectly encapsulates Dr. Waleed's final two-pronged proof. He summarizes his ultimate conclusion on why Yaqub is not Israel with absolute devastating clarity.
Lay out Dr. Waleed's final proof for us.
Yeah.
How does the paper close the trap?
First, Dr. Waleed proves it internally. He shows that the merger completely fails his kernel theory algorithm.
Right, the root math.
Exactly. There is zero structural mathematical link between the root of Yaqub and the root of Israel. Furthermore, the native text itself offers no explicit internal proof of their equality. The foundation simply isn't there. The math fails.
And the second prong of his proof.
Second, Dr. Waleed proves it methodologically. He shows that the only proof for this merger comes from outside the text. And by relying on that outside folklore to force a meaning onto the primary text, Dr. Waleed proves you violently violate the text's own self-declared supremacy.
You strip it of its status as al-muhaimin.
Yes.
So if you, as a scholar or a reader, accept the merger of Yaqub and Israel, you have to do two things. According to Dr. Waleed.
What are they?
You have to break the mathematical laws of linguistics, and D, you have to break the methodological rules of the text itself. You have to destroy the entire system just to maintain this one historical assumption.
Dr. Waleed completely boxes the argument in.
He does. It is a flawless methodological checkmate. There is no logical escape route. It really is incredible. And I think this is where we need to step back and recap the immense practical value of what Dr. Khaled Waleed has accomplished with this kernel theory.
It's huge.
He hasn't just offered a cool new linguistic theory for academics to argue about in faculty lounges, you know. He has provided a universal toolkit.
A toolkit to audit reality itself, really.
Yes, a toolkit to audit history, to audit theology, to audit the news narratives we are fed daily, and even to understand the corporate jargon we deal with.
By defining the differences between transformation, change, replacement, and distortion, Dr. Waleed protects the origin from being quietly erased.
He gives every single listener the vocabulary to look at a situation and say, no, that isn't an update. That is a demolition. Show me the surviving kernel.
And that leads to a final thought I really want to leave our listeners with today.
Well, please do.
A thought directly inspired by Dr. Waleed's methodology. If we take this rigorous test, this unyielding demand for a surviving kernel, and apply it to our own modern lives, what would we find?
Ooh, that's a good question.
How many things do we currently accept as a transformation or a healthy update in our culture, in our politics, or even in our deeply held personal beliefs, when in reality the original kernel has been completely destroyed and replaced without us even noticing?
Are we actively participating in the distortion Dr. Waleed warns about, simply because we never bothered to check the root?
Right, because we just accepted the lazy, comfortable vocabulary of change.
It is a vital, slightly terrifying question. This research forces us to stop accepting the fresh coat of paint and start inspecting the concrete foundation.
It really does.
I cannot think of a better, more provocative place to leave it. Thank you for joining us on this intense intellectual journey into Dr. Waleed's groundbreaking work today.
It was a pleasure discussing it.
It has been an absolute paradigm shifter for me, and I hope it has been for you too. Remember, whatever you are looking at, whether it's an ancient historical claim, a new piece of technology, or a major life pivot, keep questioning the root.
Demand to see the kernel.
Exactly. Don't let the lazy vocabulary of change hide the truth of what's really happening. Keep digging. We'll see you on the next deep dive.